Welcome back to Our Walk in Christ. Well, I did not get a chance to do a live stream tonight, but I did want to talk a little bit about the Supreme Court leak, and I thought that was kind of an important thing to discuss. So let's go ahead and chat a little bit about what that is in lieu of a live stream this evening, and hopefully this will have to do, and we should be back to live streaming next week. It's just been a hectic week, and then I wanted to head on up to my storage unit and do a little bit of stuff trading back and forth, and just take care of a few other things. But in the meantime, what we're going to do here is I want to talk briefly about the Supreme Court leak, what the decision would mean, what it doesn't mean, and why this is going to be a summer of violent, mostly peaceful rioting and protesting, which is unfortunate because it shouldn't be the case. First and foremost, let's go ahead and get out of the way the stance on abortion. It's sad to say that in a Christian channel, we actually would have to define what our point of view is, but hey, this is the world where, people are preaching pro-trans stuff from the altar. So, as we saw last week. So, obviously, I am pro-life. There is not a good circumstance that I can see where a woman is going to slaughter the child out of her womb. Obviously, there's those weird cases that a mother's health is certainly, the embryo gets embedded inside of a fallopian tube. That's fatal for everybody. We need to deal with that, but that's not a normal pregnancy either. Of course, people talk about the health care. We need to say that. And these are the rare examples they point to. A, they're extraordinarily rare, and B, they're already allowed under the medical cases, even under the most stringent of abortion laws, because it is not a viable pregnancy. And so you have those factors. Now, what do we talk about? Rape. Well, as a Christian, God is in control of all of this. And if you are raped and conceive and have a child, from a Christian perspective, that is still your child to raise up. Now, in part of a crazy multicultural world, in terms of politics, I would not push back on a lie that bans abortion except for the complete health or the result of a rape or something. I'm not going to personally believe that, but at the same time, in part of the compromise with the world, I can understand it. Because what the big fight about the abortion rights is, doesn't have anything to do with people really caring about rape victims or an embryo embedded in a fallopian tube. It entirely has to do with the left wanting to go out, engage in risky lifestyle business, do things which otherwise produce a child, and then go, I'm too young to be a mother, and then kill it. And we have to get real that is exactly what the case is going on. So this leads us to the famous Roe versus Wade case, which literally had no basis in the Constitution. Although it was called a constitutional right, there was literally no basis in the Constitution for it. So what this decision is, so assuming that this draft goes on and becomes the final opinion and the final decision of the court, Roe versus Wade is overturned. Does this legalize abortion everywhere? No. Shut up when you're saying that. What this overturning does is it passes this ruling back to the states. If you're in a state like California, you are completely unaffected because California believes it is perfectly right to slaughter infants, a la carte. And that's what they do. And if you are living in California, why do you care? If you're living in Texas and you're like, I have got to engage in sexual activity and then slaughter the children that I produce as a result of this, go to California. Please stay there when you get there, okay? So here's the principle, all right? The principle is that overturning Roe versus Wade does not legalize abortion. It kicks the question of the law down to the state, which the state is then in theory controlled by the citizens of the state. So if the states in general, like a state like Oklahoma, like a state like Alabama, like a state like Texas, say, we do not want to allow abortions because we think that God is in charge of life, and we think that under all these bases that we just want to protect the infant no matter what, and we're going to ban abortions, that's up to that state and that's up to the individual people. But you get into a state where overwhelmingly they want to allow abortions. You know what? That's okay. I'm going to go to the state that I'm going to go to. I'm going to avoid the state I'm going to avoid because I don't really want a part. If your idea is to kill babies, then you have a lot of other things as well. In fact, there was a very cringy Libs of TikTok video that was a compilation of a lot of different people freaking out, and they're like, oh yeah, we definitely, like, they were literally celebrating the fact that if you remember the case in DC this last couple weeks where a box of dead infants were given to the Attorney General's office in D.C., and they said, well, we're not going to do anything. You got to realize that that box of dead babies was en route to a power company that is literally burning aborted fetuses for electricity. That is the culture we have gotten to, where aborted babies are now being used to burn to generate electricity to run your electric cars. Yeah, I like that Stexenhammer uses the term coal-powered car. Maybe we should just call it an aborted fetus-powered car instead. I think that might actually turn down the idea of wanting to get electric cars, to be perfectly honest. But the fact of the matter is, as a Christian, we have to uphold the sanctity of life. All right. In the Old Testament, and I don't have the verses in front of me here, we're kind of recording on the road, but in the Old Testament, if a person were to assault a pregnant woman and the baby dies and the woman lives, that is still murder. Even in the laws of this country, if a person assaults a pregnant woman and kills the baby, it is a murder case. If you kill a pregnant woman, it is a double homicide. And as one lawyer pointed out I was watching, consent is not a legal defense for assault. You cannot consent. So how is it that it is illegal, considered murder, to kill a pregnant woman because of the murder of that baby, but at the same time not the murder of a baby when you want to consent to do it? Because that baby growing inside of you is not your body. That baby growing inside of you is a separate human being, created by God in His image. And to kill that is to kill God Himself. And that is the problematic thing. Now, that being said, should we outright fully force constitutional illegalize abortion? No, because I don't want the government regulation. I want the states to decide, and let's let the states decide what they want to do. So if you're in a state that thinks that killing babies is an acceptable thing, you are completely unaffected by the Roe versus Wade overturning. But if you're in a state that believes in the sanctity of life, you have the right as a state and as a citizen of your state to speak your mind and pass such laws to protect the unborn baby. And so all this does is prevents people from fighting over the fact of what this state does versus that state, which is exactly how this country is set up to do. Now, going back to the Christian element, I think any state that engages in the wholesale slaughter of infants for no cause, the mother just, having a party and had sex and just undo the consequence of that. I think that that's a problem. Because as you sow, so shall you reap. And if you're out there just trying to live your life for your own self, for your own pleasure, for your own self-gratification, okay, look in James 3, right? Wisdom from above is... wisdom from below is earthly, natural, and demonic. Basically, the wisdom of the earth is earthly, natural, and demonic is what that particular thing says. The idea here is that following your own desires, following your own nature, following your own heart, as is commonly said, these things here tend to lend themselves to problems because we are inherently sinful ourselves. So this overturning of this law is a good thing because it's going to allow Christian principles to seep back into Christian states. And those that aren't, a partial win's better than nothing. So that's my thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below.